He runs his consultancy firm Blue Alchemy and is currently consulting for brands like Uniqlo and J Brand. Hi, Luca.
Hi, Sandeep. Hi,
How are you
Sandeep.
doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation, and I'm really honored to be here together and sharing with this webinar with all these important players of our industry. Let's say.
Thank you, Luca. You're
Thank
most
you so
welcome,
much.
and thank you for coming and joining us.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Vasco Pizarro. Vasco studied marketing and is the sales and marketing director at Pizarro Laundries. He's in charge of reshaping the company into a full package company. Vasco is a well-known laundry and process expert and Pizarro Laundries is a well-known laundry which processes over 18 million garments a year. They have several developments to their credit, including the recent one being Zero Technology with Xenologia. Hi, Vasco.
Hi, Sandeep. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be with all of these guys and talking about and sharing our opinions and our thoughts about the future.
Thank you, Vasco. It's a pleasure to have you with us also. So in this webinar, we are trying to understand the future of denim washing. Are we poised for big changes from what we have been doing, or we can expect some incremental changes only? To understand this, we need to understand how we have progressed so far and what we have achieved in the last 5 years. So we begin with some questions to the panelists and try to get the views. And my first question is related to what we have done so far in last 5 years. So what are the major changes that have occurred in denim washing last 3 to 5 years, and how it has affected our work? So Vasco, this is the question goes to you.
So the last 5 years, I think there was a huge evolution on how we use existing technology like laser, ozone, ice blast. I think the focus shifted a bit on, of course, everyone wants to design and to deliver new things, but I think the focus was on optimization and especially on the saving resources, water savings, different wash methods. The chemicals have been playing an important part on substituting stone or substituting PP. So it's a mix. It's a mix of things. I believe that in our case, we focus a lot on how to be optimized. As you know, we are located in Portugal. Normally, our costs are also higher in terms of labor and energy and so on. So our focus on the factory was on developing new things that could not only be sustainable, but also to deliver different things, but also to be save cost. So it's a mix of products and how we use them. We've been very successful linking different technology, for example, with the laser, the ozone, the isolate, the zero technology now, wiser wash also coming. So in our case, we that were the most significant changes besides the energy state of it. So in our case, we also linked everything to green energy. So all the factories, especially in electricity, is run with solar panels. The reusing of the water has been more and more important for us. We did significant changes on the energy part, and today we are saving more than 50% in terms of steam. So it's a different small things that add up together in a big concerted strategy.
So the basic direction is sustainability, whether it's the energy saving, whether it's water saving, replacing stones and other technologies. So that's a major direction, definitely what we are moving in. So I mean, I move on to Luca Rassi and to have his views on the same question.
Yeah, let's say I partially agree with what Vasco said because it's true. And you're right, you mentioned 3-5 years, because all the significant changes really happened in the last 4 or 5 years, in my opinion, because it's where all those kind of technologies really are playing an important role and replacing some of the processes that have been used for decades, let's say, and now almost disappearing, completely replaced by this technology. And technology that I have to say, they are not so new, because laser, for instance, is not a very new technology, because I started working in this industry 20 years ago. And at that time, only a few laundries were using lasers, and mainly just because maybe they were working for Levi's, for instance, because he was a pioneer on this kind of technology. But apart from that, few companies, they were maybe having one just to try and get some new customers with this technology. But what I noticed in ozone too, the same. What I've noticed in the last 5 years, it was an impressive acceleration of global distribution of these machines. Now, I mean, every laundry almost has one or two of these technology, investing a lot of money, of course, on these. And I see also from the brand side pressure to work with that kind of technology. And all the industry, in my opinion, accelerate their investment. If I think about washing machine, just because I'm a developer, so I'm working and try to find out the best innovation for my customers in order to work in the best optimized way. The washing machine, before they were just washing. Now they are doing many things in the same time. I mean, it's all in one. They can apply nanobubbles, or they can apply ozone. If you think about, for instance, also all the new generation of chemicals, same. I mean, they are replacing the old chemical with that has some maybe hazardous content or something like that, replaced with the new generation. And in my work, what I noticed is that my aim is to, for instance, and synchronize, as Vasco was saying, this technology together with new generation of chemical, and try to get the best out of them. And because I realized that those technologies now are helping a lot, but not but just alone. Only the technology are not enough to always to get a nice looking garment, or so it needs creativity, it needs still the human brain, let's say, to work in a proper way. And I realized that if you combine properly these new things coming out, we can get very good results, in my opinion. And this is something that I see. I see it that probably targets are changed, because as Vasco said, before the targets was okay, let's match a target, a sample, and make it consistent in production, make it as similar as possible, try to reduce the production cost. Now we still have that kind of target, but they are more in a sustainable approach, because brands are also asking, not anymore, did you match my sample? It's okay, the production is okay, but they're also asking how much water you saved. Did you use certain kind of chemicals? Did you use pumice stone or potassium permanganate? I mean, now the request is different, and this is changing the way to do production and then in production. That's something I realized.
Yeah, but I mean, these requirements are different for different buyers, or they are almost getting similar in terms of sustainability requirements.
Sorry, I didn't catch the question.
I'm saying that for different brands, let's say you also working consulting for different brands. So the requirements for most of these brands are coming to same point, that they are looking for similar standards, or it's still a divergence out there?
Yeah. For the brands I'm working for, yes, I realized in the last 4 years at least, this was the main focus. I mean, this is something that is it's very strong. Probably I'm working with some companies that are very sensitive in that sense, but in general, I see that this is the trend, let's say, the tendency of most of the brands now. And this is affecting our work.
Daniel, can you share your opinion on this point?
Well, I do completely agree with everything Lucas said. It was a very nice and complete analysis of today's laundry world. Uh, there has been a major shift in attention towards sustainability. Yes, and that's great. That's the future. I know it's a concept that we overuse, but sustainability, the efficient use of the limited amount of resources that we have available, it is definitely the future. But this shift, if I am allowed to, uh, poses also a couple of important risks to be considered. The first one is uh, what we call the greenwashing, because while everybody is talking about being sustainable, maybe a little bit of too many people, too many players are claiming to be acting in the sustainability approach, while we still lack a real essential third party that certificate the sustainability of our processes. There are a lot of certification standards, whatever, or even self-assessment of sustainability. But this is one of the problem. Which standard, which certification reflects better the reality? This, if anybody is comfortable with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, is one of the subtopics. There are so many global standards, there are so many global certification that the player, the value chain, the brand, or the consumer doesn't understand which standard he should trust. And so if a consumer just want to buy a nice, sustainable pair of jeans, ends up picking up randomly, not having the tools to understand the level of sustainability of what he is buying. So there would be the need, the combined action of all the players in the industry to select a smaller range of certification, a smaller range of standards, easily communicable to the consumer, because the consumer today is confused and do not want to spend half an hour just to try to understand how many liters of water he's saving buying that brand or that brand or that brand. This is a huge risk, and it poses us a challenge, because if you want to be certificated, if you want to be to conform to certain standards, we need another one of the SDGs of the UN, the measurements of what we do, mining data in what we do. We cannot just limit ourselves to sell bullshit, whether it's to our customer or to the final consumer, making statements out of the blue written in the air. We need to get some data about what we are doing, what we are saving, how we are using our electricity, how much manpower we are saving, uh, how do we contribute to a better employment of the resources that are needed for our production. And this is quite a big challenge, I think. And I'm quite sure, not ready yet to solve it, to confront it at 100%. But in the moment we keep this level of confrontation in the business, with different player of the business talking together, meeting together, maybe forgetting a little bit that they are working for brand A, brand B, and brand C, but just remembering that they are working for this industry, for the well-being of the industry, maybe we can get there a little bit faster.
Very well said, Daniel. Greenwashing is definitely a very big problem in an industry where it's very difficult to separate, to identify who is the right, who's providing the right product with right sustainability levels, because there are no standards. And this actually will be my one of my questions, which I will ask the panel. I mean, I already put
There are no standards or too many standards, which is
Too many
exactly the
standards.
same result.
So, but do you think the time has come that we really need to get together and actually try to create global standards and suggest to our governments and let the governments implement, because these standards can only be implemented by governments, as we've seen in the case of electronics. These standards are
Well,
implemented by the government. But do you think this can
I'm,
be done
I'm,
in our
Ita- I'm
industry?
Italian, and every time I hear the government should do something, I get a little bit scared. So I think that it's gonna work much, much better if we cooperate together as an industry without waiting for the government action. Or maybe in the end we can get the government stamp. But before, the solution must come from the industry,
Industry.
must come from the professional, not from the bureaucrats.
Absolutely, I
Yeah.
completely agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Daniele because he just talk about all these kind of issue because I didn't talk about that, for instance, because maybe in the next questions we're going to talk about that. But it's true that Daniele also, for instance, 10 years ago was much worse. There were even more, and there. I mean, you don't. I was working for a chemical company, for instance, and you really don't know what could be the best certification. I have to say that in the last 3-5 years, let's say it started a sort of unification of certification in order to create only few of them. It's true there is still a lot of things to do and give a clear direction, mostly for the industry and of course consequently for the final consumers that has no idea, of course, and in this period of time are even more uncertain and need a reference. But I see also brands that are joining together to match a certain kind of sustainable goals. These kind of things 10 years ago was not happening. Now is happening. It's slow, I know, but okay, we are witness of something that is happening. Of course, everything has to come faster. Sorry.
Yeah, Luca, you're right. Completely right, because I'm now working in a brand. In the past, I working for laundries and also chemical company with Luca. And right now, I saw there is a lot of certification in the market, a lot of confusion sometimes. Also today, I have a chat with one of my supplier, and he asked me, "Why, Andrea, we have to sign another certification?" Because they say, "I have a lot of certification and I need to assign another one. Why?" Is not is a very good question, and also is not easy to reply sometimes. With a brand, we start also like to join with like a platform with different brand to share our idea, share our goals. And I know it's not easy, it's not fast. We need time, and let's see the future. I hope in the future, I hope in the market and everything. For sure, what can I say? The final consumer is the last people in our industry in our supply chain that doesn't want to understand also if the garment is sustainable or not. The consumer is if he like the garment, the end feel and the price. And if it's sustainable, yes, sometimes it's good or sometimes it's not so good. Depends. This is our job to try to sell sustainable things to the consumer. Maybe without saying nothing, and the consumer doesn't realize it's sustainable. But for us, it's sustainable.
Yeah.
Sandeep, sorry if you allow me.
Yeah.
I completely agree with Daniele, Luca, and Andrea on this point. But I think there is also a lack of focus. Many people look more on the impact of the wash itself on the garment. They forget about the impact on the cotton. They forget about the impact on the thread. They forget about the impact on the fabric. They forget about the impact of the packaging. And they forgot about the ultimate impact, that is what is done with the garment after is used. Yeah. I think a lot of attention is also on the focus of those certifications that are existing, They are focused a lot on the chemicals that are used and the way that you use them on garments. There are a lot don't evaluate a full impact of the garment. We could talk about all afternoon. I've seen a lot of different opinions on this, but I agree that the standard should be made, and how it is made, it is the ultimate challenge, because I believe that in the end, is like Andrea says, the consumer doesn't have an idea on how a garment is done, no matter if it's sustainable or not. But most of the people don't know how it is done,
Yeah.
and that is I think a thing that you have to do in a partnership with the brands, because the ultimate conversation is between the brand and the consumer. Of course, we that are the players of the industry, we are behind, and we have to give the information, and like Daniela said, accurate information, measured information, by a lab, by a certified standard. But we have the obligation to tell the brands how we did it, and the brands have to have the idea to talk with the consumer, or even to involve the players of the industry to talk with the consumer, because I believe that together we can do a better job than the government. Also in Portugal, Daniele.
Yeah, Vasco, you're right on this point, and but I think the whole problem that we have in the industry is that our industry is so fragmented, not properly organized, and if you look at the brand side, the retailer side, that has taken a big hit in the last couple of months. That we have seen that the big names who are always talking about, so many names we were talking about sustainability now, they have left their supply chain high and dry. So I mean, I think human impact, also human aspect of the sustainability has become so important also. Now, I mean, the whole thing is how to get the whole thing organized for the global industry and coming together and to certain acceptable standards, and then probably implement that. I think that is a huge challenge.
Yeah.
All right. So I think Andrea, you already you want to share something else on the previous question? Or should we move it?
This, my colleague say a lot of things. I totally agree with them. So I can add anything more. They say everything about machinery. In the last 5 years, we implement the use of the machinery, the technology, the chemicals changing a lot. Also, everything is changing in our industry, and let's try to do our best. Let's try to invest in research. Let's see. I can say anything more. They say everything. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so we move on and to our next question. So, what major, so many major changes are coming in apparel production and consumption. So, do you think the consumers actually are in a position to demand different kind of washes post the situation what we are facing currently, or it is up to the industry to offer different alternatives? And also, the biggest concern the consumers today have is health and safety. So how do we, as washing industry, address this? Of course, there are so many other aspects: the fabric side and the yarn side and the fiber side, all those things. But as a washing side, how these concerns can be addressed? So let's say move on to Moscow again.
Me again. So talking about health and safety, we can, in our case, especially I didn't understand the first part of the question.
So I said, basically the washing changes that are required will be demanded by the consumers, or it will be decided by the industry, including the designers, the retailers, and the manufacturers.
I think the changes in washes, as always, to have to do with the look and the aggressiveness of the look in terms of wash. we have seen throughout the years slowing on the aggressiveness. So a lot of the effects that it used to be done in other times, like 3D whiskering or heavy things, kind of slowed down. We saw changing on a simpler washes, especially in what we have been seeing in the market, but different kinds of things. I think that this will always be a team job. You have Luca on the creative side, you have Andrea on the brand side, with Daniele as on the player side. The brand always have to transmit us a little bit of their image and what they want to offer to their consumer. That analysis ultimately has to do with what the brand wants to give them. In our case, we try to be as flexible as possible to have a look, an effect, or a process or a product that suits that need of the company. So I think it will always a team effort on the designing of the. We have brands that we present them. They, based on that, they select what they want. We have the inverse, and we have brands that we meet on the middle.
True. And about the health and safety part?
The health and safety part, we ourselves on the factory, we, especially with the pandemic state, we are working at 50% of our capacity. What we established in the company was a contingency plan where we outlined guidelines for the workers. Static workers are wearing mask, protective mask, and in a safe distance at least 2 meters. And the workers that are not on a static job, that have to go around the company, use mask and a PVC mask.
So actually, I was coming to was the finishing, the health and safety finishing for the health and safety of the people.
But are you say antibacterial processes?
Yes.
Yes, we have what we have using ourselves. We are partnership. We are doing partnerships with companies that are working for medical staff. We are using some of the antibacterial process that we have to accommodate that. In the garment industry itself, we have not seen nothing more than usual in terms of the normal antibacterial demand, but I don't know how it will play in the future. Maybe it can increase.
Okay. And Luca?
Let's say concerning who is going to decide who, or let's say, in my opinion, brand and industry cannot wait for the final consumer's demand, because final consumer, most of them, they don't even know how a garment is made. We know well, we are very sensitive, we know how to make it, how to save water and everything, but final consumers, only a part of them maybe are sensitive. They were sensitive to sustainable wash or saving water before this pandemic, and maybe now they're getting more sensitive. But I think the people that didn't care much before, even now, I don't know if they change, maybe little percentage change their mind. So if brands are waiting for market demands on that, these things will take too much or maybe never happen. So in my opinion, our brands and the industry that should take a firm and drastic decision to go in that direction, whatever is the market needs or requirements. And this is what I feel, let's say. Then in this uncertain period of time, for sure, final consumer are looking for a reference, a firm reference. And what brands can do is transparency, or maybe send a communication and message clear, understandable for them, that they can be assured that this garment is made in a certain way, but start from a sort of, let's say, education that needs to be done, because otherwise doing that. And I think concerning the health kind of application or finishing, let's say, of course, the demand is getting higher now. This is something that everybody's asking for, even the brands are working for. And many chemical companies, let's say it's a technology that comes from the sportswear and outerwear that can be adapted or optimized for casual wear. And there are different kind of formulation now in the market. There are some companies that were already providing to sportswear, so they have these products already in stock in their store, in their range. And other company that now are getting involved and are trying to find an alternative or something to propose. So there is a lot of action behind that. Of course, what I realized that at the moment, the products and chemicals that are silver based are the most powerful in that sense. They say they are active as antibacterial, but probably antiviral. And but there is a certain delay in the proposal of this chemical, mostly for antiviral properties, because it's not easy to certify something like that. And it all depends how some companies describe and present this kind of chemical, because not every company is able to provide certain kind of guarantees and certification. So it's something, but there are chemical companies that are providing it anyway.
Yeah, I think that will be interesting, and probably that is huge consumer demand for these kind of products, and the retailers. This is something which is really pushing the retailers to develop something from the washing side, from the fabric side, from all the material side. So, Daniel, can you contribute on this question?
Yeah, I think that if you are talking about the wash image, the wash look, it's a little bit the story of the chicken and the egg. Is the brand producing what the consumer is searching for, or is the consumer buying what the brand is producing? So it's a give and take relationship between the brand and the consumer. Brands are always searching for the latest trends, and consumers are always informing themselves on what is available on the market. So it's a two-way relationship. And I don't think that is gonna change in the near future. Consumers are, yes, indeed, getting more educated, but they still trust the brands on what is cool, what is going to be sexy to wear next season, or this kind of decision. What I see, what I think is going to change now as a direct result of this moment we are living is the buying opportunity, the selling point, the purchasing idea, the way we approach the decision to buy one pant instead of the other, or to buy a pant at all. So I think that for what concern the washes in this specific problem, or say to understand how to sell it to the new consumer, to the post-crisis, post-COVID-19 consumer, is going to be a shift to more visual, more authentic, more less boring, let's say, denims, garments that will sell in two ways. First, in being something interesting, because the consumer is confused, but is also a little bit, I perceive, bored by what he finds in most shops. And secondly, it sells better on the online platform because it's more visual, it is more detailed, it is more photogenic, let's say. So forecasting a shift from the in-shop purchase to the online purchase, maybe that's gonna be one of the new situation we are gonna see in the laundry. More visual washes, I
So
think.
you mean more aggressive washes and
Yeah,
more visual.
yeah. But of course, this is a random throw of dice. This is what I think is gonna happen. Nobody has a crystal ball, so let's wait and see.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, probably the trend will be also of functional products.
Maybe
I mean,
some-
garment probably, I see a trend that could be having a specific kind of performance properties, like for comfort, for protection, for health, for, I don't know, yeah, I mean, these kind of things. Something that could be a hybrid coming from the sportswear and then joining the casual wear or jeans and denim. That's something that probably will just break this, as Daniele said, boring situation, let's say. In my opinion, those kind of addiction, injection, let's say, gonna probably be the future.
And also aggravated by the staying at home part. You know, people are already more bored, so when they leave, they want to have a more flashy thing. Yes, I can see that. Yes.
More experimental.
Yeah. There is also one thing to add. Now we have to ask to the customer to go out from the house if they want to go out from the house. It's not easy now because they stay maybe 2 months in the house with the fear of the virus. And like a brand, we have also to say, come to our shop and buy our clothes. It's not very easy because right now there is no regulation. They say the garments have to have a sanitification after the trying of the other people. So we have to thinking also about that because it's not easy for the customer go out and go to a shop and go like a previous COVID. So it's very good to have something in the market like a new treatment, like antivirus or antimicrobic, just to give to a customer a little bit more, let's say, safe. No, they feeling more safe to go out and try something. Then can say, okay, this garment is treated by some antiviral product, antimicrobial product, and I don't have any problem to dress. No, so I don't. This is one thing. Another thing is so you are completely right, guys. It's not a very good situation, this one. And we are also in a boring situation, like because we stay at home. We also, the market in the last years is all the brands have the same image, more or less. There is no one very different from the other one. Also, Luca is very is right with maybe some treatment like antimicrobial antivirus will be the future of our industry. Why not? The problem is also in this moment we don't have anything because we have to rewash again the garment we have in the warehouse. How we can do it? So maybe for the future collection we can do something, but right now we don't do it. We can do anything.
And India, what about water repellent? Are the brands and retailers looking for water repellent?
We are looking. Well, also, can I speak like for Seven for All Mankind? We are looking for something for antimicrobial and antivirus if it's possible. But like Lucas said, it's not easy to understand and to know if some products is antivirus. Also because someone told me there is 2 lab in the world who made the certification for antivirus, especially for the coronavirus. I'm not really sure about this. I have to check, but someone say me this. And also they need time, like 4 weeks or more weeks to receive a reply from the lab. Yeah, but
chemical company are working on that and doing they're
Yeah.
working right now. I mean, these days they are trying to make it because everybody understand that is it's going to be a high demand on that. But of course,
Yeah, but I demand in the future, not right now, because right now we have in the shop the garments, but you can retreat again the garments. It's impossible.
This is another
think inside the store. So if a person tries on but doesn't suits well or doesn't look nice, that garment has to be antibacterialized so that another can try it. So the logistic itself and the fear that people might have on going to the stores is it's always very, very hard to overcome.
Yeah, it's not easy. So it's not easy right now, believe me.
Yeah, and it's right, because the comments which are already in the shops, I mean, we can do anything about that. But I think there have been some talks probably that the retailers which have not been able to sell this summer, and they are kind of packaging those goods to be sold in the next year. I mean, that there are reports on that. I don't know if those are true. So, I mean, I don't know if that is something which they will look at, that if these garments are going to next year, so probably we should make them more usable in terms of health and safety.
Yeah, in the next collection will be the future with some treatment in the end, just to be covered by something that we can take in from the atmosphere from the other people, or bacteria or virus, something like that.
Yeah. So I think let's move on to the next question about technologies. In last, as we already discussed, so many technologies which have already been used in last few years. So do you see some groundbreaking technologies coming up in next couple of years where we can, which can make a big difference to the denim washing and apparel washing as such? Can the panel share views on this? Anyone? I mean, let's say, let's start with Luca.
So something new coming out, some new technology, you mean?
Yeah.
I have an idea that also the technology that we have right now, they still have a lot of space to improve. And there are some tools that now you can combine in order to get a different effect. At the moment, I mean, what I see, this is my personal situation, and what I see around me is that we still have to get the best out of laser and nanobubbles and ozone too, because I realized that, for instance, let's talk about ozone. Ozone, in my opinion, need to be set properly. I mean, people is using it just to clean, but if you set properly the intensity of ozone, so how many grams per hour is applying, you can get different kind of effects. So there is still a lot to explore from this technology. Laser, of course, in my opinion, still have a lot of graphic designing to improve to make it even better. And it's what I said before, more than new technology that at the moment I don't see much, apart the things that may be interesting for sanitizing, as everybody was telling before in the store, that maybe there is no direction so far from governments and everything, how stores should behave now as soon as they open and they sell the garments. But that kind of new technology may be interesting. So sanitizing the garments inside the stores, that it maybe could be something that it's going to be new. But I still believe that now we still have to improve a lot the existing technology and get out the best of it by combining it. And frankly speaking, I don't see many things. There are a few tools that you can put inside a washing machine to improve. I see, for instance, washing machine producer that develop new drum working. They're able to work with a very low liquid ratio, and that's something that can help. I mean, the sustainable part of our processes. But I mean, not many new machine right now.
Okay. Vasco?
Yeah.
So I agree with Luke. There's a lot of road to be done with existing technology. We have co-developed with Genologia the zero closed water system that I think it will have a big impact. It has been having a big impact in our factory. We are reusing the same water in the washing for 22 days with marginal loss of the water in terms when the garments comes out wet. But we are able to save on the hundreds of thousands of liters per month. So it in the washing side of it has a big impact, but it's something that I believe it will be helping other facilities in the future. Apart from that, I also see the reusing and the repurposing of the same existing technology, especially ozone. With the Wiser Wash, for example, it has been something that's been very well accepted on the market. But I think there's the part of the medical that we can be explored, and machines and processes that allows circularity. So we have programs with the brands on the garments that are on the stores that they don't sell. They come to us, we retreat them, we repurpose them, we sell it as they sell it as a new product. So processes also that allow reusing, so the garments won't go to waste or don't get as dead stock, that allow circularity, that you can see it and the brand can profit from it. I think that it also is a road that we can go.
Yeah, we need to optimize, and this zero technology, what you mentioned, is it uses the water from all kind of washes, irrespective of
Yeah. On the washing facility, and we adapt it as well on some process on the dye house. It's also possible, but not all. Some.
Okay.
This is new, Vasco.
Yeah.
Because in the
Okay, Daniel.
Well, it's very interesting what Vasco said about circularity, and I think that is gonna be one of the cooler stuff tomorrow, the circularity program, because it's the ultimate tool that we have to save resources. That, of course, create the need for a lot of flexibility from the brand side, because a circular product doesn't need only a circular industrial process, but needs to be engineered from the beginning as a circular garment. So with certain kind of construction, certain kind of material, a general setup that is that allows the garment to become in the end circular and to go back in the production cycle. And of course, you need a dedicated logistic system to treat circularity. So it's not just a matter of how good we are with machines and with rewashing, but it's the system all around the supplier, the supply chain that needs to adapt to make circularity a reality. Another nice new trend that I see is the one that really put data to use in the supply chain, because as of now, as I said before, we are an industry that is very low on data. We can get data about the oil industry, the energy companies, whatever. Look about the data, search for the data of the fashion industry. You just see sell-in, sell-outs, but very little raw data to be used. And I think that the next big thing happening in the supply chain is the use of software technologies, AI that provide, dig, elaborate data to the supplier, to the user, to the product engineer, and to the brand eventually, to make the process better, learning from the data that we are now ignoring.
I think
It's not everybody is ready for that, and it's a huge technological investment. But I think my personal approach is that data is king. You get what you measure. Without data, you don't go anywhere. And right now, we are really, really poor on that.
You're
It
right.
helps transparency, probably.
You're right. Transparency. Yeah.
in a big way. So probably we might have better data than we had before. Uh, Also, as you know, one of my friends pointed out in one of the talks that one thing which we as fashion industry is that we are not attracting the best talent which is available in the market. Let's say which software industries, IT industries are attracting, or other industries are attracting. So we also probably need to attract better talent. I mean, of course, we are all very good, but yes, when if you talk to young people, many people are more inclined towards your more high tech industry. So we, as Daniel said, if we are going more towards data, more toward high tech, we are actually creating conditions for much better talent to come to our industry. Andrea, you want to say anything else?
No, what can I say? Yeah, I'm totally agree with Luca. Right now, we have a lot of new tech. Say no new technology. We have the technology, and we have to invest in this technology that we have right now in the market. Because right now it's like a baby. We have to grow up with this technology and try to have the best of this technology. Because I think we can do a lot of things with the machinery and the technology that we have right now in the market. After also the circularity, yeah, is a good point. It's not easy to do with all of kind of brands. Not everyone can do this. Depends also which type of brands that you are, which type of customer are you looking for. It's a very good. Is the ideal word circularity? No, recycle all the material, recycle all the denim, reuse and recreate something, but it's not easy. And
No, it isn't.
yeah.
Maybe I can share my experience that I have with Uniqlo, for instance. That I don't know, Sandeep. Can I?
Sure, please.
Okay, just to give an idea about what has been done in the last 4 years, and Uniqlo and its group, they invested $1 million in a R&D center, internal R&D center, just to create their own sustainable process with some clear targets. So saving water up to 99% comparing with the conventional processes, without pumicestone, without any manual operations, with a very minimum amount of chemicals in use, and all these kind of things. That was the target, and they invest a lot internally to create the process. And in the 3-4 years, combining this technology that everybody is mentioning that we have right now, we work it and make all our efforts to get out the best of it, and combining these new generation chemical and their characteristic, because some of them, they may perform less than the bad one, let's say the old one, but if combined with this technology, maybe working with the pH, some chemical are working that maybe is boosting the ozone machines and the ozone in their process. So combining these kind of things, we were able to create and match our target. And now, just talking about the organization, how can be possible to be sustainable for a big brands, is that what Uniqlo is doing is to create this process, scale it in production, make it consistent, and transfer it to their contractors. Let's say with the contractors, Uniqlo has a very strong relation. It's almost a sort of let's call it partnership. And these contractors are buying the same technology we are using in the R&D center in order to scale it exactly what we are doing. Sometimes being big, as Uniqlo it is good to create a system that it's saving all that amount of water and energy and make it sustainable. This is something that helps. So the organization is also something that helps. Something that probably for small brands is more complicated. But for big brands like that, maybe they have more power to, with thanks to the big numbers they have in production or something like that. Something that probably after COVID may slightly change the organization, but for sure is helping also to cut some cost or make sustainable garments, garments in with a acceptable price, because that's I think is the big challenge in the market right now. Do sustainable with a low price and with a
Same
certain
price
kind
of
of
the normal one. Yeah, because right now the challenge is to have sustainable washing with the same price of the old one or cheaper if it's possible. But right now the market sometimes they say sustainable is more expensive than the normal one. I don't really agree about this because I don't really.
It's true.
But from my experience, I can say sustainable is more expensive. It's more expensive than the normal one, because if you use the right technology, you know how to use the chemicals and the technology together. Like Luca said, you can save a lot of money also in the production side.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I add something to this last thing? Because it's really interesting. Personally, me and Andrea have already spoken about it in the past.
Yeah.
So I'm quite interested. Of course, sustainability is about resource efficiency. If I am resource efficient, then I'm spending less because I have less input to do a single process. This is true on a certain scale. This is true when sustainability is at full speed, let's say. When sustainability will be the standard, the operational standard in the processes all around the industry, yes, a sustainable garment will be cheaper than a non-sustainable one. Until that moment, or until a certain level of widespreading of sustainable processes, I think it's still gonna be a little bit more expensive than the standard one. In the last 10 years, we have seen the prices of sustainable product and standard product getting closer to each other. I remember then in 2011 or 2010, we as LT, we proposed our first eco collection. We called it the Earth Keepers, and the prices were almost double compared to the one of the traditional washes. Now, if I see a medium range wash sustainable and his brother unsustainable, on average, the difference should be no higher than 15 to 20%. It's still a huge amount of money because it should be cheaper technically, but only when we scale it up to a certain level.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to add, Daniele, that to be, of course, sustainable, to develop new processes, new product, from the beginning to the end of the value chain. If you spend the time and money in development, if you spend time or not this time, but money in new technology, of course, that in the first until you have a payback or sense of it, it can be expensive because, as you know, a laser machine, a ozone machine, all are not cheaper. So
yeah, in a short term is not not like this, but in a long term, yes.
Yes, in the long term, yes.
It's a huge investment. It's a huge investment in the beginning, but in the long term, reduce water, reduce time, reduce everything.
Of course, it has to be a calculated investment, of course. But I think that especially people that don't know what it costs to develop something, like you did, for example, when you develop new chemicals or new process, or the people that are around the industry and don't understand that cost, they are the ones that doesn't understand that sustainable can be on the first stage higher priced than a traditional wash.
And the whole challenge is now, yeah, Daniel, you want to add something?
Just a little extra. We said that most of the sustainability that we can do in washing is somehow dependent on the technology level of low performance companies that cannot afford to become sustainable or to stay sustainable because they are lacking the margin to purchase the new technology. So at a certain point, we should ask ourselves, why do I really need a lower price? Or do I really need a lower price? Isn't it healthier for the whole value chain? I'm not talking about the single supplier, but for the whole value chain to leave more value to be reinvested in the processes, which I will, in the end, use me as a brand later on.
I agree completely, Daniel.
Yeah, I agree that we should not be completely depending on machineries. And what I said at the beginning of this webinar is that machinery may help, but you have to use the brain too, to make it, because technology, maybe, let's say nanobubble, for instance, it's expensive. You have to apply it with the washing machine. Maybe you have to buy also the washing machine and there's something like that. But you cannot use that kind of technology for every process. It's going to be even worse than the standard ones, because you waste a lot of time filling and draining the tank, cleaning the tank, and doing. It's impossible. Most of the time, I'm more keen to do 3 processes in one in a normal condition with a say, normal liquid ratio, and but just using maybe also less chemical, but the right chemicals, and you save already a lot of water, and you make it without a big investment. Maybe may help a washing machine with a specific kind of drum, maybe, but I think a laundry can buy a new machine, or sometimes you have to renew their existing machine and they can buy one of that. It's not an investment out of this world or a fantasy. It's something that happens. Personally, I don't like when market is becoming completely technology addicted. This is something that we are doing we are playing the game of the machine producer. They are doing a great job, absolutely, but we have to be balanced in that. I understand. Yeah. And I agree with Daniele. We should talk for hours, I know, in order to clarify every aspect. But sometimes, sustainability at the end is you calculate at the end of the complete washing formula how much you saved. Doesn't need to have a machine. You can be so brilliant to make it also without technology, but at the end of the numbers should be what testified that you did sustainable. This without huge technology. Technology helps, but we should be balanced in the use of them also, because sometimes it could be something with some drawbacks that can be bigger than the pros. What is good.
If I can add something more, like sustainability for me is also optimization of process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's true. Anything which reduces resource usage is sustainability and optimizes the resource.
I didn't understand, sorry.
Anything which optimizes the resource utilization is, I think we can say,
optimization of everything, like process, chemical, everything is all combined in the end.
True. So we have a lot of questions coming from the participants and the people who are attending this webinar. So let me try to take a couple of questions. Yep. This question is from Laura Dixon. Now, I think we have already discussed some part of it, but let me repeat it again. Laura Dixon, to all, we have been talking for years about what we should have one centralized certification body in the industry. So we are all working towards the same goal. But who will be the ones to lead this? At some point, there needs to be action, not just words. Anybody can take this. Did you not get the question?
No.
Okay, let me repeat it again. We have been talking for years about how we should have one centralized certification body in the industry. So we are all for the sustainability, and so we are all working towards the same goal. But who will be the ones to lead this? At some point, there needs to be some action and not just words. So anybody in the panel, please.
I think the ones that are not afraid, because as Daniela said, maybe we should be put the view aside of competitors and start working together and talk to each other, because the ones that will always be afraid of a competitor to know a secret or to know this or to know that, I think the ones that will not be afraid will be the ones that lead it.
True. I mean, but I mean, we need to. I mean, this question is very relevant because there has to be some kind of global body which has to come
Yeah,
up
there
with
are,
some.
Sandeep, there are in our business something like they try to combine different kind of certification. I don't know. Example is IG, is a platform where
Yeah.
a lot of brands also they join, and they try to have they try to follow like one part is for the labor part and one part is for the environmental part. This is could be a solution. Something like that.
There are some coalition, let's say, exactly,
Yeah.
like SAC. I think you're talking about that, Sustainable Apparel Coalition.
Yeah,
that is helping all brands and retails to and apparel to gather together, help each other in order to get a clear guideline with a index that to follow in order to make it. But it needs a coalition. Otherwise, there is too much segmentation and it's only confusing. And this is I agree with Vasco. I mean, this is necessary in order to speak the same language. And if we speak the same language, people can understand that language. Otherwise, it's like a Portuguese, an Italian, and an English in their own language, and we don't understand each other.
That's true. So we come to another question. I mean, this is regarding sustainable washes again. What is the most sustainable wash you have done till now?
Okay.
Oh, Luca.
No, I mean it's again I've been working on sustainable washes for the last 10 years, and mostly in the last 3 years I went much deeper working with the Uniqlo, and the most sustainable one is where we let's say we just to be a little bit more technical, we don't we dry the garment only once, so means the garment touch the water only once, combining together the first processes in all the same bath. We created at the beginning a particular laser design that looks really real without the requirements to apply lately a second application of laser or in the old school potassium permanganate, and at the end of the process we were able to save 95% of water comparing with the conventional process, comparing with what is made in China or with the older liquor ratio, let's say, in use. This is something. So combining a good laser design and working with just, I think, 3 different chemicals. That's it. All sustainable, all listed in the ZDHC MRSL, and this is something that is very sustainable in my opinion. When you use the same bath for, and normally in a conventional way you use 9 baths, getting the same results is something amazing. And of course, without compromising the look. That is important things. Otherwise, there's no sense.
One of the most important things is this: have the same look, but and save time, money, water, and energy.
But I realize also that using certain kind of technology that I cannot tell because some of the process we do for Uniqlo, of course, are secret, let's say. But I realize we are getting even a better look because also without using pumicestone, the look of the garment look much more clean, and you still have visible the structure of the fabric, and it gives a nice, very nice look. So and this is something me and the team are proud of it. I mean, this is something I can share with you.
I talking about it, about this specifically, is something that I normally joke a little bit with the clients with more trust and with the team here, because when we say sustainable wash, it's so vague with so many variables on this, and like Luca said, of course when we are talking about a mid-wash, a mid-range look wash, or a bleach wash, or a raw, depends a lot of things. But we separate what we call sustainable because from what is eco-friendly. What is, in our opinion, what we consider it truly sustainable is something that doesn't use chemicals, that use the less amount of water and energy, that is really sustainable. Of course, when we talk about eco-friendly, we can talk about so many things. I think that talking about this is subjective because we can do rinse wash terribly unsustainable, and we can do a bleach wash terribly and very good for everyone involved. So I think it's a matter on how you use resources. I agree with Andrea. I really like the input Luca told about this, and the partnership with Uniqlo, and I believe a lot in this kind of way to do work. But it really depends on the look that you want and the amount of resources that you excel on.
Sandeep, you are in mute.
Sorry, Denim, you want to add something?
I don't know. I'd have to thinking about which type of washing. No, like I say, right now we are focused. Okay, my new experience is working with 7. Now we are launching our sustainable washing. We call it kind of planet. We try to use one of the most sustainable fabric in the market with less chemicals, less water, less energy. And one of our goal is to achieve the same look of the normal 7 for mankind washing garments in this way. And sometimes it's not easy because we have to achieve what the consumer, what our customer wants, and we have to find a balance between the sustainable one and the final result. Let's see. I'm happy to. Is a very good challenge for us.
Anybody else on this question?
Well, about the most sustainable wash that we can do, I think that it's kind of a pointless discussion, if you allow me, because I could go on a couple of hours with all of you talking about our sustainable line. We have probably done it already in some different shows, but that is kind of pointless because the most sustainable pant is the one we didn't produce because we didn't use any resource. So if that's the goal, my most sustainable pants is the one that has been produced by my competitor because I didn't use any of my resources. What I do care about sustainability in our treatments is that any pants that I am producing now is on average more sustainable than the pants that I was producing yesterday, because sustainability is a matter of processes, attitude, and way to handle the treatment and the resources involved in the process. So it's a process itself. So anything being produced at our facility today is more sustainable than anything that we were producing 2 years ago, not even to compare with 10 years or 20 or 30 years ago. So that is what to show you a garment saying, okay, this is done with zero water or whatever. We can do that. We all can do here because it's our job to do that. But it's the average garment that counts for me.
Thank you, Daniel. That's
Yeah.
very appropriate. I mean, because if we are doing sustainable washing in all the production that we are doing, that's the most sustainable thing. And we take a final question from the audience, which is from Sally Ditton. If you had to choose one technology from all the new machines and methods, which do you believe is making the biggest difference?
Sorry, Sandeep, can you repeat the question?
Uh, this is a question by Sally. If you had to choose one technology from all the new machines and methods available currently, which do
Okay.
you,
Yeah.
which do you believe is making the biggest difference?
If we are talking about a new technology, I have to choose zero.
We are talking about the existing ones.
Our existing, I think ozone can be the most flexible one and not yet charted.
Yeah, we have to invest. We have to invest in research in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ozone looks like the technology that so far we didn't explore it completely. I mean, this is the common idea. I mean, yeah, it's doing something. I'm sure it can do more than that, but so probably that could be the future. In my opinion, the more flexible is laser, because laser is I mean, is graphic, so you have more space to work than probably
because it's a software.
Yeah, probably is that. If you are talking about only technology, in my opinion,
yes,
that one.
Yeah, because also
more possibilities.
If we think about nebulization system, there is some limit at the moment, and I think if you have to combine a chemical company and the machinery to find a solution, because right now there is some limits for some application.
And I'm bleeding saying that because I'm a lover of the hand sanding. Andrea knows. I like designing with my hands, but I have to say that concerning technology, yeah, laser, because I'm witness of it, because I start working with laser in 2001, and I see that I mean, software is improved a lot in that sense, but I see that if you invest time, or maybe also company can invest on graphic designers, you are able to improve a lot what you're getting. I was always thinking laser is giving a fake look, needs some hand sanding to improve. But in the last couple of years, I've seen such a big improvement also. Me designing with different layers and different adjustments, but needs time. I know needs time and to dedicate it. But I am witness of what this machine can do, and it's doing a lot of amazing things and getting very close to. It's a different kind of technique, because hand sanding or something like that is a physical abrasion, while laser is just a sublimation of indigo. So the look is a bit different, but working with layers, working and studying more the what's happening between the laser beam and the fabric, it gives good satisfaction, in my opinion. This is something that still have to be explored more, but gives a lot of ideas and way to work.
Anybody else on this? Okay.
Yeah, we have, like Lucas said, we have to study more the fabric and the reaction with the laser. This is the most important things, I think. because everybody can laser a garment, but laser in a proper way, no one right now. Because like Lucas said, that the laser, everybody here say laser is a fake result in the end. But if you invest in design, if you invest in people like graphic designer, and if you invest also in study the materials, so the fabric and those specific fabric with this specific dyeing, we can create something amazing.
True. And one more question which has come up is, there have been a lot of talk about near shoring, where the tailors might be more interested in having their production closer to the place where they're located, where they're selling. So, do you see that in coming, uh, let's say 1 year or 2 years, do we see, let's say, laundries being set up in Europe and US closer to the retailers, where they can, get goods, unwashed goods, and get them washed close to their centers, and get a, faster catering to the demand of the market.
I hope.
I mean,
This is also sorry, Luca.
sorry,
This is
sorry.
also something relating to sustainability also. Because if imagine we produce in China and then we sell in US, what is the sustainability? You lost everything in terms of shipment and in terms of other things. Yeah, the best and the best way is produce in Asia and sell in Asia, produce in Europe and sell in Europe, produce in America and sell in Americas. This is the best idea world.
All right. So
I have a dream. My dream is to, my dream, I mean, something I love is the increase of local brands that probably now are hoping economy will support it. But local brands with things made maybe with also small numbers, despite I'm working for Uniqlo and other things, but I love and all those small brands that are working locally. I see also in Italy brands that are that's been created to work with the Italian industry. Everything is made in Italy, very authentic, that's also a way of sustainability, I have to say. And I'm really happy to support, for instance, this kind of brands, because I love this kind of transparency and genuine kind of way to produce, instead of producing exactly abroad and then send back and all these kind of logistical things. This is something that, in my opinion, I personally love it, for instance. But for big organization, I don't think it will be feasible in a way.
It's not easy.
I agree with Luca. It would be nice to see some reshoring sooner or later, but as of today, it's nothing but wishful thinking. I mean, the consumer has got too used to a cheap product. Cheap, just talking about price level, not that needs to look to be. I'm very sorry. Not a product that looks cheap or is cheap, but just a product with a low price point. So if we reshore in Europe all the production for Europeans, the end people will be quite upset about the average increase of the price of the stuff they are purchasing. And they will not purchase it at all, probably, because who can afford now, after a crisis that comes after a 10 years long crisis, the price of a fully European made garment? Very little people, not so many, only the luckiest of us. So I think that the global supply chain is there to stay and is serving its purpose well, because it's giving everybody the opportunity to buy something nice, and which is a great result from an industry point of view. Of course, we should also look a little bit back in our homes. So reshore what is possible to be reshored, knowing that the supply chain will stay global for long and long and long again.
Or maybe something more.
Sorry. Yes,
No,
Andrea.
maybe
Yes.
so maybe, or maybe something more easy is to create more warehouse of brands, because right now almost brands have only one warehouse in the world where all the goods arrive and then ship to the rest of the world. Maybe it's much better to create different warehouse located in different part of the world, and you can use for the market. It's maybe much better.
In my opinion, I agree in part with what Daniela said. I think that this will always be dictated by the level of price on the markets. In Portugal, we've been witnessing a lot of comeback from high-level brands. And of course, that's a target that, as Daniela said, the lucky of all of us can buy. But we have also worked, and we still work with the brands that have a global scale value chain. So I think in the end, it will always depend on the information that the client has and what the consumer is able to buy, having in mind all the items in what costs on a brand and what is and ultimately able to pay for him.
Sure. I agree with you, Oscar and Daniel. So that is going to be, because price point is always going to remain important, and specifically after this crisis, it may become more important. But of course, simultaneously, we might see some quantities, as Luca said, if some kind of small brands coming up and catering to the local market. I mean, that
would be nice.
I mean, that's a dream. It's a dream, but we might. It is the possibility that it might happen that way. So before we close, I just want to have your, if you have any message for the denim community, that would be nice if you can share anything else you want to share with the denim community.
No, for me, just want to share that it was a pleasure to know Daniela, to see again Luca, to see again Andrea. Hopefully, in the future we can meet each other again. That everyone stays
in
safe.
Life.
Yes, in life. That the families stay safe, and that you guys. It's a real pleasure to have talked with you.
Yeah,
good.
All right. So, I mean, I think this was a wonderful discussion, and it was it was my pleasure that you all agreed to join the panel and specifically on a short notice, and shared your, deep insights on what, in which way the washing is moving. Of course, as you all said, that sustainability has been and is going to remain the most important thing, and that direction is undisputed. And of course, we have to talk about removing the greenwashing part, which is there in the industry, and data, software, and technology. All these things become very important. Is working probably. I think in future we need to have more collaborations rather than buyer supplier relationships, probably, which will make which will probably not help in not repeating these kind of situations what you've seen in last 2 months when the participants are deeply invested into each other, so we will not see this kind of sorry state of affairs what you've seen in last couple of months. So, and of course health is very important. Health, and I think the industry is already working in working hard towards that, how we can provide better health to our apparel products, through finishings, through the fabrics, through the fibers and other things. So I think that is a very important direction. So I really thank you, all of you, for joining and having a wonderful discussion. And for all the participants who are here, I would like to thank them also. And there have been so many questions, but unfortunately we can't take all those questions. So let's hope we can take up some of these questions later on in the next session. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so
Pleasure.
much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.